Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, January 27th, 2022. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college basketball, NBA, and NHL games, look ahead to tonight's games in each sport. We'll do some Australian Open, and we will preview the upcoming PGA event coming up. And obviously, news and notes, and best bet for you along the way as well. All right, we're going to start with college basketball today. We will recap the games last night and look ahead to everything going on tonight. It is a very busy day in college basketball today for sure. All right, so last night, number 18, Tennessee over Florida, 78-71. Winthrop over SC Upstate, 95-91 in overtime. Number 17, Providence over number 21, Xavier, 65-62. Butler over Creighton, 72-55. Michigan over Northwestern, 72-70. Charlotte over Old Dominion, 71-65. New Hampshire over Maine, 73-61. St. Peter's over Marist, 69-62. Boston University over Lafayette, 81-62. SMU over South Florida, 74-54. Lehigh over Army, 84-71. American over Holy Cross, 67-49. Navy over Bucknell, 81-63. Long over Princeton A&T, 79-71. High Plain over Radford, 63-58. Presbyterian over Charleston Southern, 62-61. Campbell over Hampton, 75-60. Miami over Virginia Tech, 78-75. North Carolina over Boston College, 58-47. Vermont over Stony Brook, 80-67. UMBC over NJIT, 73-69. Hartford over Binghamton, 72-60. Albany over UMass Lowell, 64-62 in overtime. Bradley over Valparaiso, 71-56. Northern Iowa over Evansville, 64-59. UMass over LaSalle, 77-71. George Mason over St. Bonaventure, 75-66. St. Joe's over Duquesne, 72-61. Chattanooga over Wofford, 71-60. Furman over VMI, 79-64. UNC Greensboro over East Tennessee State, 80-76. Citadel over Western Carolina, 68-66. South Carolina over Vandy, 71-61. Arkansas over Ole Miss, 64-55. Number 23, Iowa State over Oklahoma State, 84-81 in overtime. Wichita State over UCF, 84-79. Tarleton over Lamar, 62-57. Abilene Christian over Texas Rio Grande, 87-85. Oklahoma over West Virginia, 72-62. Drake over Illinois State, 89-88 in overtime. St. Louis over George Washington, 80-67. Sanford over Mercer, 75-61. Number 22, Marquette over Seton Hall, 73-63. VCU upsets number 25, Davidson, 70-68. Indiana over Penn State, 74-57. Number 19, LSU over Texas A&M, 70-64. Tulane over Tulsa, 97-63. Notre Dame over NC State, 73-65. Georgia Tech over Florida State, 75-61. Washington State over Utah, 71-54. Sam Houston over Cal Baptist, 73-68. Seattle over Stephen F. Austin, 70-62. And Utah State over San Diego State, 75-57. All right, now we look ahead to a busy window for tonight. First up, number 11, Wisconsin at Nebraska, 5 o'clock, Big Ten Network. My projection is Wisconsin by 10 and 7/8 total, 146. I did not do totals for every single one of these. I did it for most. And it is 8 and 146.5. Laying the points. Eastern Kentucky and Florida Gulf Coast. My projection is Gulf Coast 1.5 total 147.9. Meanwhile, 3.5 and 153. Under. Arkansas State and Appalachian State at 6:30. My projection is App State by 3 3/4 total 137.3. Meanwhile, 3.5 and 135. Over. 7 o'clock, Murray State, Tennessee Tech. Did that get postponed? No, it didn't. It just is on the bottom of the ESPN list. My projection is Murray State 17, total 142.35. Meanwhile, it's 12 and 145. I'm going to lay the 12. Middle Tennessee and Marshall. My projection is Marshall by 6 1/8, total 143.7. Meanwhile, it's 2 and 147.5. Laying the 2. St. Fran, PA, and Wagner. My projection is Wagner by a whopping 25 to 141.95. Meanwhile, it is 15.5 and 140.5. Laying the points. St. Fran, Brooklyn, and Sacred Heart. My projection is Sacred Heart by 7 and 7/8, total 142.1. Meanwhile, it's 4.5 and 144.5. Laying the points. Mount St. Mary's and Fairleigh Dickinson. My projection is Mount St. Mary's by 11 and an eighth. Total of 138.9. Meanwhile, it is 5.5 and 136.5. So I'm going to lay the points of Mount St. Mary's. LIU in Central Connecticut. My projection is LIU by 12 and a quarter, total 140.85. Meanwhile, it is 6.5 and 141.5. I'm laying the points. Mack Bryant. My projection is Bryant by 11 and a quarter, total 134.2. Meanwhile, it's 8.5 and 132.5. Laying the points. Gardner Webb and UNC Asheville. My projection is Asheville 8.5, total 139. Meanwhile, it's 1 and 136.5. I'm laying the one with Asheville. North Alabama and Liberty. My projection is Liberty by 17 and a quarter, total 134.85. Meanwhile, it's 14.5 and 133.5. Laying the points. Lipscomb, Jacksonville. My projection is Jacksonville by 2 and 3/8, total 138. Meanwhile, it's 4.5 and 138.5. I'm going to take Lipscomb in the points. UIC and Detroit. My projection is Detroit by 5 and 3/8, total 140.3. Meanwhile, it's 6 and 142. Ooh. Slight under. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, slight under. Milwaukee, Robert Morris. My projection is Milwaukee by 10 and 3/8, total 142.2. Meanwhile, it is 1.5 and 141.5. I'm laying the points. Green Bay, Youngstown State. My projection is Youngstown by 15 and a quarter, total 136.85. Meanwhile, it's 5.5 and 134.5. I'm laying the points. Little Rock and Coastal Carolina. My projection is Coastal by 7 and 5/8, total 142.4. Meanwhile, it's 10.5 and 142.5. I'm taking Little Rock in the points. Drexel, James Madison. My projection is James Madison by 6 and an eighth, total 145.65. Meanwhile, it's 2.5 and 147.5. Laying it with James Madison. Hofstra, Charleston. My projection is Hofstra by 1 and 3/8, total 152.8. Meanwhile, it is 2.5 and 158. Under. Northeastern, UNC Wilmington. My projection is Wilmington by 3, total 136.05. Meanwhile, it's 3.5 and 133.5. Over. Delaware, Towson. My projection is Delaware by 4.5, total 142.1. Meanwhile, 5.5 and 141.5 for Towson. I'm taking Delaware, getting the 5.5, and they're going to win outright, plus 190. William and Mary and Elan. My projection is Elan by 9 and a quarter, total 140.85. Meanwhile, it's 7.5 and 142.5. Very close calls on a lot of these. We're going to go with the slight Elan pick. Rice, Louisiana Tech. My projection for this game is La Tech by 17 and 3/8, total 147.5. This is a 7:30 start. Meanwhile, it is 11.5 and 148.5. Laying the points. Bellarmine, Stetson. My projection is Stetson as a 4 and an eighth underdog, total 136.85. Or 136.35. Meanwhile, it's 2.5 and 130.5. Over. Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State. My projection is Kennesaw as a 9 1/8 underdog, total 141.45. Meanwhile, it's Jacksonville State laying 1.5, total 137.5. I'm laying the points. Georgia Southern, UL Monroe. My projection is UL Monroe by 2 1/8, total 140.9. Meanwhile, it's 1.5 and 139.5. Slight over. Eight o'clock, ESPN, number 16, Ohio State at Minnesota. My projections, Ohio State by 8.25, so 139.2. Meanwhile, 6.5 and 136. Over. Ball State and Northern Illinois. My projection is Ball State by 4.5, total 142.75. Meanwhile, it's 2.5 and 142.5. I'm laying the points. Loyola Chicago and Southern Illinois. My projection is Loyola by 11.5, total 132. Meanwhile, it is 6 and 124.5. Over. FIU and UTSA. My projection is FIU by 2 7/8, total 136.9. Meanwhile, it is 1.5 and 134.5. Over. North Texas and Southern Miss. My projection is North Texas by 14 3/8, total 128.05. Meanwhile, we got here 14.5 and 120.5. Over. Weber State in Northern Colorado. My projection is Weber by 3 3/8, total 150.25. Now it's Northern Colorado by 1.5, total 157.5. Weber State might be an underdog round robin, but the podcast pick here is going to be the under. New Orleans and Houston Baptist. My projection here is New Orleans by 14.25, total 144.25. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 146.5. I'm laying the points. Utah Valley, Chicago State. My projections, Utah Valley by 17.25, so 135.55. Meanwhile, it's 11.5 and 128.5. Ooh. Over. Don't feel good about it because I really like Utah Valley State too. Central Arkansas and North Florida. My projection is North Florida by 4.25, so 145.85. Meanwhile, it is 5.5 and 150.5. Under. Texas State and UT Arlington. My projection is State by 10.75, so 136.75. Meanwhile, it's 2.5 and 127.5. Ooh. Over. Troy and South Alabama. My projection is South Alabama by 11.75, so 136.95. Meanwhile, it is 6.5 and 137.5. I'm laying the 6.5 with South Alabama. Georgia State and Louisiana. My projection is Louisiana by 4, total 141.2. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 144.5. Under. Oral Roberts and Omaha. My projection is Oral by 15.75, so 152.6. Meanwhile, it's 13.5 and 163.5. Under. North Dakota State and South Dakota. My projection is North Dakota State by 1/8, total 143. Meanwhile, it's 1.5 and 144.5. Tough one here, but I'm going to go slight under. North Dakota and South Dakota State. My projection is State by 26 1/8, total 156.1. Meanwhile, it's 21.5 and 163.5. Under. 8:30, Tennessee State and SIU Edwardsville. My projection is State by 1 3/8, total 142.05. Meanwhile, it is Edwardsville by 5.5, total 140.5. I'm taking State plus the 5.5 and plus 188 to win outright. Belmont Austin P. My projection is Belmont by 12 and 5/8, total 142.75. It's 15.5 and 146.5. I'm going to go with the under. Incarnate Word and Northwestern State. My projection is Northwestern State by 9.75, so 146.25. Meanwhile, it's 6.5 and 145.5. I'm laying the points. Nichols McNeese. My projection is Nichols by 9.75, so by 147.2. Meanwhile, it's 3.5 and 147.5. I'm laying the points at Nichols. 9 o'clock on Fox Sports 1, number 6, Purdue at Iowa. My projection is Purdue by 6.5, total 152.3. Meanwhile, it's 2.5 and 155. I'm going to lay the 2.5 at Purdue. Cal and number 7 UCLA on the Pac-12 network. My projection is UCLA by 24, total 136.85. Meanwhile, 16.5 and 129. I'm going to lay the 16.5 at UCLA. East Carolina, Memphis. My projection is Memphis 13, total 146. This game's on ESPN2. And it's 12 and 146. It's, oh my God. Slight Memphis. Cal State Fullerton, UC Davis. My projection is Davis by 5 and 5/8, so 138.45. It's 1.5 and 138.5. I'm laying the 1.5 at Davis. Morehead State and Southeast Missouri State. My projection is, by the way, this game's on ESPNU. 7 and 5/8 for Morehead, total 145.8. Meanwhile, it is 6 and 147. Tough one. I'm going to do slight Morehead State. Eastern Illinois and Tennessee Martin. My projection is Martin by 7 and 3/8, so 134.8. Meanwhile, it is 12.5 and 134.5. I'm taking Eastern Illinois in the points. UAB and Western Kentucky. My projection is UAB by 4 and 3/8, total 145.25. Meanwhile, it's 4 and 146. Slight under. FAU UTEP. My projection is UTEP by 2, total 142.6. Meanwhile, it's 1.5 and 132.5. Over. All right, for the rest of these, I didn't do totals. Idaho, Montana. My projection is Montana 19. And it's 12.5 and 144.5. I'm laying the points. Eastern Washington and Montana State. My projection is State by 10 and 3/4. And it is 6.5 and 146.5. I'm laying the points. A&M Corpus Christi in Southeast Louisiana. My projection is Southeast Louisiana by 3.5. And it's Corpus Christi 1.5, total 148.5. I'm taking SCL plus the 1.5 and minus 105 straight up. UMKC in Denver. My projection is UMKC by 5 and 3/4. And it's 1.5 and 133.5. I'm laying the points. Bakersfield Irvine at 10 o'clock. My projection is Irvine by 9. And it's 9.5 and 122. I'm taking the over. Cal Poly and UC San Diego. My projection is San Diego by 4 and 3/8. And it is 6.5 and 132.5. So I'm going to take Cal Poly plus the 6.5. Long Beach State and UC Riverside. My projection is Riverside by 14 and 3/4. And it's 6.5 and 137.5. I'm going to lay to 6.5. Southern Utah and Portland State. My projection is Southern Utah by 12 and 1/8. Well, it's 5.5 and 147.5. I'm laying the points. Idaho State and Sacramento State. My projection is Sacramento State by 4 3/8. And it's 7.5 and 130.5. I'm taking Idaho State plus the points. Pacific and Portland. My projection is Portland by 3.25, and it's 2.5 and 138.5. I will take the over. St. Mary's, San Francisco. My projection is St. Mary's by 1 3/8. And it's San Francisco by 2.5 total, 103.5. I'm taking St. Mary's plus 2.5 and plus 118 to win outright. Pepperdine and San Diego. My projection is San Diego by 4 7/8. This game's at 10:30. And it's 7.5 and 138.5. I'm going to take Pepperdine the points. 11 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Loyola Marymount, number 2, Gonzaga. My projection is Gonzaga by 18. And it's 28.5 and 156.5. I'm taking Marymount plus the points. Stanford at number 15, USC on Fox Sports 1. My projection is USC by 16 3/4, and it's 11 and 140. I'm laying the points. Colorado, Washington on Pac-12 Network. My projection is Colorado by 5 3/4. And it's 2.5 and 137. I'm laying the 2.5. BYU and Santa Clara on ESPNU. My projection is BYU by 12, and it's 3 and 150. I'm laying the 3 with BYU. And last but not least, Cal State Northridge and Hawaii at midnight Eastern. My projection is Hawaii by 15 7/8, and it's 12.5 and 103.5. I'm going to lay the points with Hawaii. All right, now we'll move on to the NBA. We'll recap the games from last night, and we'll look ahead to today. I'm so sorry it took so long on that one because there's a lot of games. That was like a Saturday window for a Thursday. Cavs over the Bucks, 115-99. Hornets over the Pacers, 158-126. Clippers over the Magic, 111-102. Hawks over the Kings, 121-104. Heat over the Knicks, 110-96. Nuggets over the Nets, 124-118. Bulls over the Raptors, 111-105. Grizzlies over the Spurs, 118-110. Suns over the Jazz, 105-97. The Mavs over the Blazers, 132-112. 2 games tonight. It's a TNT doubleheader. 7:30 of the Lakers and the Sixers. My projection here is Philly by 7/8, total 218-45. Meanwhile, it is Philly by 3, total 220. I'm going to take the Lakers getting the 3. I think they can win outright too. They're plus 124. And the Timberwolves and the Warriors at 10 o'clock on TNT. My projection is the Warriors by 10 7/8, total 216.2. Meanwhile, it's 6 and 227.5. I'm going to take the under in this game because of some of the absences for Golden State. All right, now we'll move on to the NHL. We'll recap the games from last night and look ahead to a busy window for tonight. Maple Leafs over the Ducks, 4-3 in a shootout. Sharks over the Caps, 4-1. Flames over the Jackets, 6-0. Red Wings lose at home to the Blackhawks, 8-5. And the Avs over the Bruins, 4-3 in overtime. Now we look ahead to tonight's games. 7 o'clock, you have the Rangers and the Blue Jackets. Rangers minus 205, Columbus plus 168, over under 6, overs minus 122, unders even money. Rangers minus 1/2 is plus 132, Columbus plus 1/2 is minus 162. All right, this has the makings of a trap game for the Rangers. Tomorrow is the Henrik Lundqvist retirement ceremony. They're hosting the Wild at the Garden, a Friday night game at 8 o'clock. And this has all the makings of a trap game, but Columbus has been so bad. So, I'm going to go under 6 at even money. Ducks, Canadians. The Ducks are minus 152. The Canadians are plus 126. Over under 5.5, minus 110 each way. Ducks minus 1/2 is plus 176. Canadians plus 1/2 is minus 220. I'm going to go with Anaheim in regulation at plus 105. Hurricanes, Senators. Canes minus 265. Sens plus 215. Over under 6.5, minus 110 each way. Canes minus 1/2 is even money. Sens plus 1/2 is minus 122. I'm going to go Canes puck line -1.5 at even money. Devils Lightning minus 330. Devils plus 260, over under 6.5. Overs -102, unders -120. Devils plus 1.5 is plus 102. Lightning -1.5 is -124. I'm going to go over 6.5 at -102. Golden Knights Panthers. Panthers -178. Vegas plus 146. Over under 7. Overs plus 104. Unders -128. Vegas plus 1.5 is -170. Florida -1.5 is plus 138. I'm going to go with the Vegas money line to win outright at plus 146 over the Panthers. Kings Islanders. The Islanders are -152. Kings are plus 126. Over under 5.5. Overs plus 120. Unders -148. Kings plus 1.5 is -235. Islanders -1.5 is plus 186. I'm going to go with the Kings on the money line too. Plus 126. Kraken Penguins. Pens -320. Kraken plus 255. Over under 6.5. Overs -104. Unders -118. Kraken plus 1.5 is -102. Pens -1.5 is plus 120. I'm going to go over 6.5 at -104. 8 o'clock, Flames Blues. Blues -140. Flames plus 116. Over under 6. Overs -122. Unders even money. Flames plus 1.5 is -230. Blues -1.5 is plus 184. Flames are coming off the big win over Columbus, but part of me thinks that this could be a letdown for their offense. I'm going under 6 even money. Canucks Jets. The Jets are -172. The Canucks are plus 142. Over under 5.5, -110 each way. Canucks plus 1.5 is -194. Jets -1.5 is plus 156. I'm going to go Canucks money line plus 142 to win outright. And last but not least, 9 o'clock, the Preds and the Oilers. The Oilers are -113. The Preds are -106. Over under 6.5. Overs -102. Unders -120. Preds plus 1.5 is -290. Edmonton -1.5 is plus 225. I'm going to go with the Predators on the money line at -106 to knock off the Senators. The Oilers. Now we'll move on to the Australian Open from last night and into this morning. And then we'll look ahead to tonight if possible. So the men's quarterfinals. Daniil Medvedev over Felix Auger-Aliassime in 5 sets. And 4-seed Stefanos Tsitsipas over 11-seeded Jannik Sinner in 3 sets. By the way, Medvedev was the 2-seed and Auger-Aliassime in 9. And 10:30 tonight, we have the first of 2 semifinal. 7-seeded Matteo Berrettini, 6-seeded Rafael Nadal. It's going to be a great match. Nadal's -190, Berrettini's plus 156. And in set betting, I'm going to go Nadal 3-1 at plus 310. Then tomorrow, at 3:30 a.m., 4-seeded Stefanos Tsitsipas and 2-seeded Daniil Medvedev. Medvedev's -260, Tsitsipas is plus 210. I'm going to go Medvedev 3-2 plus 410. All right, and on the women's side, 27 seed Danielle Collins upset 7-seeded Iga Swiatek in 2 sets, and 1-seed Ashley Barty over Madison Keys in 2 sets. And then on Friday night will be the final between Ashley Barty and Danielle Collins, which is going to be great. We'll preview and pick it on the podcast tomorrow. All right, now I'll move on to golf. We have a new tournament that we have rolling here, which is the Farmers Insurance Open. We already have it underway. It's actually started yesterday. We just didn't cover it. I had a pick for this one, and I went with John Rahm, who's actually in a tie for 5th with 6 under. In the lead is Brett Herschel at 9 under. Mike Thompson is in second with 8 under. Tied for 3rd with 7 under is Stefan Jaeger and Kevin Tway. And then tied for 5th with John Rahm at 6 under, Ricky Fowler, Doug Gim, and Francesco Molinari. Tied for 9th with 5 under is a pretty big tie. So we're just going to go through notables at this point. Aaron Weiss, Luke List, Sam Burns, C.T. Pond, Dylan Fratelli, Daniel Berger, Mariano Gillick, Maverick McNeely, Justin Rose, Ryan Palmer, Tony Finau, Cam Triangle, Matt Neesmith's in the tie for 31st with 4 under with Cam Davis, Xander Schauffele, Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson. Tied for 38th with 3 under, Chasen Hadley, Walter Zalatoris, Scott Stallings, Wyndham Clark, Brock Stewart, Max Hubbard, Joaquin Neiman, Taylor Hogue, Mito Pereira, Adam Schenk, Christian Ziedenhout. Tied for 53rd with 2 under, Kevin Strelman, Camilo Vegas, Mackenzie Hughes, Jason Day, Sanjay M. Brooks, Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, Ches Reveed, Jordan Spieth, Alex Loren, Patton Kazir, Scotty Scheffler, Brant Snecker, Hudson Swafford, Cam Thompson, Keegan Bradley. Tied for 76 with 1 under, Siwoo Kim, Matt Wolff, Mark Leishman, Joaquin Herman, Patrick Rogers, Emiliano Grillo, Jonathan Vegas, Matt Jones. And then at even at 96, Bryce Garnett, Pat Perez, Adam Cook, Hideki Matsuyama, Patrick Reed, Carlos Ortiz, Sam Piercy, Gary Woodland, James Hahn, Adam Long, J.J. Spawn is tied for 113th with 1 over with Jason Brumlett, Sepp Straka, Adam Hadwin, Taylor Gooch, Lucas Griffin. Tied for 122nd, 2 over Joel Dahman, Henrik Norlander, Keith Mitchell, Henry Higgs, Doc Redman, Sebastian Munoz, Nate Whaley. And then tied for 136 with 3 over J.T. Potson, Corey Connors, Cam Champ. Tied for 141st with 4 over Phil Mickelson, Lucas Hodges, Danny Lee. Tied for 145th with 5 over Richie Wierenski. And that's really it among notables. All right, now I'll move on to news and notes for today. So a head coaching hire announced early this morning. The Broncos are hiring Nathaniel Hackett to make them their new head coach. That's the Packers offensive coordinator. Interesting hire. Matt LaFleur has done a great job with the Packers since injuries and all the Aaron Rodgers drama. And I think that both his coordinators, Joe Barry and Nathaniel Hackett, really have emerged from themselves as head coaching candidates. I understand why people would be nervous about this because Ben McAdoo was the Packers quarterback coach. The Giants hired him as an offensive coordinator, and then he became a head coach and was awful as a head coach. And it turned out to be that he was an Aaron Rodgers product. We'll see how he does with the Panthers as their offensive coordinator. So, yeah, interesting hire to say the least. Now we have to see where some of the other guys go. Brian DeBall is the Dolphins head coaching favorite, according to the New York Daily News. I thought DeBall was the favorite for the Giant job all along. And with Sean Payton leaving the Saints, could that be an option for the Giants potentially? That would be the classic John Mara hire, though. Like hiring somebody in the family. But he really has kind of shied away from that in this GM and head coaching search, which really I got to applaud him for that. So we'll see what happens with the ball. The Pro Bowl alternates were announced. And among them are Buccaneers stars Mike Evans and Devin White. Harold Landry of the Titans was picked as well. Antoine Winfield of the Bucs. Brian O'Neill of the Vikings. Devontae Adams, Bobby Wagner. Keandre Diggs, Joey Bosa, and Tristan Wirfs are among those named as Pro Bowl replacements. So the Vikings make it official with Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah as their next general manager. He was a Browns executive of football operations. He was the vice president of football operations. So we'll see how he does here. I think Minnesota really liked Joe Shane and Ryan Poles, but ultimately those two ended up with the Giants and the Bears respectively. So we'll see how he does. And now the Vikings got to pick a coach. So I got to applaud those three teams for hiring a GM first. 3 dysfunctional organizations in the Giants, the Bears, and the Vikings all deciding to go GM before coach, which was smart. Because it really looked like that the 2 NFC North teams were going to pick a coach before the GM, but no. They chose the GM first, which is the right thing. And it did look like all along that the Giants were looking at GMs before coaches. But I got to give credit to the other NFC North teams right there, and the Vikings and the Bears for the processes. 49ers injury updates. Trent Williams likely to play. Kittle good to go. Deebo Samuel not on the injury report, so that's good news for San Francisco. Jamar Chase says that former LSU head coach Les Miles liked him as a cornerback. And he says he told his ex-coach that he couldn't play receiver coming out of high school, which is wild. So Les Miles said that Jamar couldn't play receiver coming out of high school, which is wild, and he really has proved Les Miles wrong for sure. Giants owner John Mara shuts down the Deshaun Watson trade talk amid sexual assault and misconduct allegations. So the Giants are doing the right thing by not going out and getting Watson, and solely because of this. And the unknown with this situation. As talented as Watson is, but the legal stuff matters. And that would just be a mess on the organization. And the Giants GM Joe Shane says that he's committed to Daniel Jones and will build an offense to accentuate what Jones does best. The Brooklyn Nets won't trade James Harden, as the team won't engage any team who calls them asking about James Harden ahead of the deadline. Chiefs fans honor Josh Allen as they donate over $173,000 to the Patricia Allen Fund at Buffalo Hospital. So that's really nice. Louisville fires Chris Mack after almost 4 seasons. There's a lot of turmoil with the program this year, and it was rumored that it was going to happen, and it happened. Now that's a marquee opening come the springtime in college hoops. LSU lands Oklahoma State transfer Jarek Bernard Converse as he becomes the 12th transfer portal pickup for LSU since hiring Brian Kelly. So that's a good defensive back for them to get. Yesterday, we didn't discuss yesterday because we forgot. Yesterday was the 2-year death anniversary of Kobe and Gianna Bryant. And there was a statue placed of them at the crash site on the 2-year anniversary of their deaths, which is really nice. And a nice little memorial at the site. And that day is going to be fulfilled with memories year in and year out because of how special Kobe Bryant was, not just as an NBA player, but as a person too. And it's just really, really sad that it's been 2 years already, which is wild. Non-sports news, a White Castle location in Queens closing after 86 years. That was the OG White Castle that shut down in Queens. Jeopardy news. Amy Schneider's dazzling run on Jeopardy comes to an end after a 40-show streak. So, Amy Schneider lost on last night's episode of Jeopardy, so that was a big deal. New York City may get 6 to 8 inches of snow this weekend, so keep an eye out on that. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. One jumped out at me right away. It was in college basketball. I'm going to lay points with the road team, which is something that has hurt me this year. As best bet lost yesterday, I had Florida State minus the points against Georgia Tech that lost. So I'm going to lay 3 with BYU against Santa Clara. I just think BYU is flat out better than Santa Clara. So I'm going to do 2 units on BYU minus the 3 against Santa Clara for my best bet of the day. All right, that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything from tonight, looking ahead to tomorrow. And then we'll do the picks for the conference championship games in the NFL as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.